Good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to Ask the Accountant. The episode is number 66. The date is the 22nd of January, 2024. We've not got very long left until the old 31st of January comes around, so that'll obviously be a topic of conversation. But with me, as always, is my co-host, Johann. Johann, how has your week been? Have you had a good week? Have you slept at all this week, or is it just me?
No, it's just you. Most of us, this thing called time management and managing your workload. Good morning, everybody. I'm not sure where you've got the thought of warm from. I'm currently still trying to find where my Christmas tree's gone.
Oh, it's a wind that bad up there.
It's brutally bad up here. There's a few fences down, none of mine, thankfully. Although I've got to go and just check them once we've finished here. But yeah, my Christmas tree's disappeared from the garden, so I don't know where that's gone. A few flower pots are on a different side of the garden, and a few of the trees haven't got quite as many branches as they did have this last night when I went to bed. But overall, I'm still here for now.
I bet you.
No, good week. How was yours?
Your office is still there. I mean, we can see it, right? Like it's still there.
Yeah. Solid. Not going anywhere. This.
Maybe you don't want to say that too loud, jinx it too much. But it's just a shame we don't have the weather area that we used to. You know how we used to be able to get to see the weather? We'd be able to see like cats and dogs flying around if we were.
Yeah, the wind's died down now. It was horrific this morning, last night. It's just raining out there now. It's just dark and raining. Fair play. Typical Scottish day.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, on our end, it's blustery and there's a bit of wind out there. I think the worst thing that we've been told on our social media is don't put your bins out because the bins have decided it's bin day for us, you see. So yeah, and I was like, don't do it, don't put your bins out. all right, chill.
Too dangerous.
It's not like social media to go a little bit OTT over something, is it? But that might be a topic later in today's show. As always, our most important member of the show, though, is you. And you are coming in your droves at this point in time. We've got League Saint saying a very windy good morning to everyone. It is a very windy. You're absolutely right there. Cheryl Stone says good morning. Kirsty St. John's on her LinkedIn, because that goes first, says good morning, chaps. She's not more likely than our listener on YouTube. Paul says morning. Good morning to you too, Paul. Louise says good morning to you, Louise. Natasha says good morning to Natasha. And Kirsty comes back with just thinking of Johann up in his house like in Wizard of Oz. Yeah, by the sounds of it, this could definitely happen. Could happen live on show. How good's the internet, the Wi-Fi? So if you do start, how long is
the cable?
Yeah,
there is an extra 25 meters of cable underneath here. Brilliant. Because I'm mismeasured slightly. So there's a wheel of 25 meters worth of extra cable underneath here,
which actually could be quite useful at this point.
Yeah, that's gonna be my tether. It's gonna keep. But the thing is, you will never know because I've got such a good gimbal on my webcam. We'll be straight. It's fine.
It'll just be you. Zero G.
I'm not wobbling though, is it?
Exactly. Brilliant. Well, we've got an interesting show. I mean, let's start off with the fact that January is not long to go. I mean, I should have it all ready. If I click on my client engager dashboard, it pops up and it tells me, oh, there's 8 days, 16 hours and 23 minutes. We don't, but that doesn't make us upset at all, does it? That we have that functionality on client engager that just keeps me awake at night.
You could turn it off.
No.
Don't you go blaming me for using my tools.
But we've not got long left to go, and it's just been a very strange year, hasn't it? Like, let's be honest, it's definitely not been your typical year. There's definitely been a year where there's been some differences of the ways that normally January goes. But how's it on your end, Johann? I mean, any update on numbers and stuff? Is a kind of percentage? I know you like your whole pie graph and percentage of how many to come in. How's it looking? Are you on top of it all?
So, yes, I want to say we are. I mean, I've got a team meeting this morning to thrash that all out. Like, we've got 109 technically still to file.
Okay, that's not bad.
Now, of that 109, 57 have still yet to send us any information or even acknowledge emails or phone calls.
Yeah.
20 are sat waiting for e-signing. So actually, we've got 26, and 11 of those haven't even sent us all the information we need yet.
Yeah.
So we're confident, we're on it, we're happy. We always get that last batch of people that haven't been in contact for ages suddenly turn up. But that's fine. That's why we've got a escalating fee structure. So the closer we get, the more expensive it gets. Yeah. So yeah, how is it going at your end? I imagine Bofix is under control and Apple Cores.
Yeah, Bofix is under control, but yeah, Apple Cores just keep me up at night. I've had every day this week. It's been 11 o'clock when I put the laptop down, sort of idea. And it's not doing tax returns. It's because there's so much accountancy stuff going out there. Other bits are coming through. I mean, should I complain? I've got so many like client new PNC meetings with clients. They may not go anywhere, but there's so many of them in the diary. Like we've got 30 odd to go through this month for the next couple of weeks. So stuff like that just pushes back your actual doing of the accounts and tax return, right, all the way till evening. And then you just come to the evening and it's like, okay, so it is what it is. I just feel like this year it's back to that old way where people are just leaving it to the last minute, like we said last week. And there's a lot of people on social media saying, oh, you've got to train your clients better and you've got to do this. But at the end of the day, clients they're scared at this point in time. There's so much uncertainty out there that a lot of clients just don't want to know, right? They just want to bury their head in
the sand.
Yeah. And you can't blame them. Like they're scared. And there is a fear out there, isn't there? So, we can sit there and be all righteous and say, oh, well, we can train our clients better and everything else. But at the end of the day, clients are they're people, right?
They've got better things. They've got other things, bigger priorities on their plates at the moment. Like, last week I saw a surge in phone calls and emails and meetings with clients that are in the building trade and construction trade, because they're seeing ripples already of building giants collapsing.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, crap, we're now in trouble. What's more important for them right now? Is it to save their business that will pay the tax bill next year? Or is it to file a tax return and give us that information? Now, you could argue more frequent accounting and bookkeeping insights would help with that planning of keeping a business, but now is not the time to be righteous. Now is the time to be supportive.
Yeah.
So yeah, people have just got a lot on in their lives at this moment in time, and quite frankly, HMRC is one of the last things on their minds.
Yeah, exactly right. So it is what it is, right? Like, yeah, we could sit here and say how easy it is to change your client's mindset and stuff, but at the end of the day, like,
there's a lot of people out there that need to stop judging. I think we touched on this last week, but people are out there on LinkedIn judging everyone for still doing tax returns. It's like, or not having filed their own tax return, or it's like, get off your high horse.
Yep.
Everyone run their business how they want to run it. And if someone wants to take on last minute tax returns, then good on them.
Yeah, exactly.
Well done them for supporting these people that are a bit unorganized or didn't know, or a lot of people say, oh, I didn't realize. And it's like, well, to be fair, we don't teach you to realize, do we? We're too busy teaching Shakespeare and trigonometry at school than teaching real life requirements of a tax return.
This is true.
But that's a whole different soapbox, so we'll avoid that one.
Speaking of soapboxes, speaking of social media, speaking of there you
go. There's a segue.
Yeah, exactly. We smashed that one. There's been a post on the old social medias. Let me first of all, before we talk about opinions and go through, let's just make sure everyone's up to date of what happened, because you'll be, it's fair enough if you've missed this because it was only Saturday. So this is breaking news in the world of accountancy, right? But there was a blog post that went out from QuickBooks, and they put in part of that blog post. I would say the rest of the blog post itself was fine. There was some really good points in there. It was, all good. But unfortunately, they phrased a certain aspect of it that, let's say, didn't go down well with the accounting industry. I think that's a fair assumption, in my opinion, in this one keyword.
Yeah.
But, you know.
And then several big names with big followings from software providers got in there and really stuck it in and stirred it up a bit.
Exactly. So just so everyone's on in the know, in this particular blog post, there was a phrase that said red flags to look out when looking for an accountant, and they put the phrase if they're not a member of ICAW or ACCA. Now, if they'd have just put like or for example, this be a non-issue, right? Because let's be fair, if there was a non-qualified accountant looking to do some books, then that is a red flag. It's not saying they shouldn't do it or that they're wrong to do it. It is that is a red flag, and that should be something to be considered. But the fact that they didn't put like, and they just mentioned 2 out of the 6 different accounting bodies out there, ruffled some feathers, and rightly so, I think, in terms of people being ruffled by it.
I think there's a bit of American influence on this, in that in America, which is what QuickBooks is as an American company, yes, don't get me wrong, they should have really vetted this and got it right. In America, if you're filing with an accountant, they have to be, there's none of this non-registered, non-governed accountant stuff in America. Like, I wouldn't have a firm in America, like, because I'm not with a governing body. I think they're complete and utter waste of time and money. But again, another soapbox I'll put to one side. In America, what they said, in theory, was right. And maybe they should have had a more comprehensive list of governing bodies. But it also shows this was quite American, because they didn't mention bookkeepers in this article at all. Exactly. Yet in the UK, bookkeepers can and do self-assessment tax returns, and they do a bloody good job with it.
Yeah.
And in fact, a lot of bookkeepers will do a better job at doing their client's personal tax return than an accountant will, because they've got an ongoing working relationship with that client on an almost day-to-day basis. Whereas a lot of accountants that you have come into that working relationship with a client and a bookkeeper generally parachute in once every 4 months to do a VAT return, or once a year for an annual accounts and tax return. That bookkeeper's got a much more holistic view of that client and what's going on. So that bookkeeper will know better than the accountant potentially would. Oh, they've got kids, so there'll be child benefits, or they've just had a divorce, so we can't claim the marriage allowance anymore. Or,
exactly.
Oh, he was telling me he'd just finished a university course, so there should be a student loan consideration here. Because they've got that more intimate working relationship with the client. So we've got that aspect as well from this article, where we've missed out half the industry of representation. But also, as you say, all this took was a such as.
Yeah. For example.
Yeah.
Like.
Personally, I don't think that paragraph needed to be in there at all, because I do not believe governing bodies necessarily.
No, but it was a qualified. You need a qualified account as a. It's that whole argument, right? And again, there are non-qualified or qualified by experience people out there who do a fantastic job. But if you are looking for a new accountant and they're not qualified, that should be a.
How qualified was that accountant, and how many governing bodies did that?
No. There's bad eggs on each side, but as just a red flag of, let's do a little bit more due diligence. Let's make sure that they are right for me in other aspects. And that's right. Yeah. I have a red flag in my life where if they're not an Apple user, I'm a bit cautious, right? That doesn't mean I don't speak to them. There was 6 weeks where you weren't an Apple user, but I still begrudgingly sent you a message every now and again, right? But
Very begrudgingly.
Yeah. But like, red flags are there not to say do not work with them or do not touch them with a barge pole. They're
be aware,
a little bit more cautious. Yeah. Be a little bit, just make sure that individual, that person, that practice can back up what they're saying. And that's all this article was trying to do. It was done poorly, don't get me wrong, but that's what it was all about, right? And I do feel like the whole is, being qualified or not being qualified. It's a conversation, but it should definitely include all the qualifications out there. And that's where they went wrong, right? They tried to pinpoint it on, the only 2 that count was X and Y, right? That's where this article fell short, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that bit of wording, if we were going to have that paragraph in there, because I'd have personally, I'd have scrapped that paragraph because I've seen many qualified accountants coming out of uni with a nice certificate that couldn't tell you their backside from their elbow.
And because there's no barrier of entry, right?
Yeah. And I would have gone and said, make sure they've got experience. Like, make sure, like, ask them about their experience. Look at reviews. Like, there's so many other better qualifying aspects out there than a piece of paper that tells you, yeah, they can translate a textbook into an exam paper.
100%. Yeah. So, look, I think the whole original post that was out there, the OG post, if you like, I think was well put together. You know, didn't even actually link the article because they were being quite, you know, didn't want to cause too much of an argument or anything like that. But they've rightly put it out there, and I think the OG thing was rightly put, and from a place of actually, they're right to say this because of the team they support very much puts accountants first. Right. So I'm 100% against the original post. And in fairness, the original post as well got a good reply back from QuickBooks. And I think there was a lot of, you know, positivity that will come out of it going forward. And I think there's all that. Yeah. But then you start looking at the comments and then you start looking at some of the other posts that were put out there. And that's where it gets a little bit silly and a little bit ridiculous. There was so many comments on there, people just jumping on a bandwagon, trying to, you know, trying to make a point or a comment that just didn't make sense. I mean, there were some comments in there that were started talking about QuickBooks self-employed, like that's got anything to do with this at all. And they're trying to bring in the fact that because QuickBooks has QuickBooks self-employed, then, you know, they're trying to eradicate the need for accountants anyway, because they're bringing in software that's going to mean that accountants just, that's the bit that for me, the comment section was the bit that was the fuel. And I was so close to posting myself, but I just took myself out of the situation and went, you know what? It's emotion was just getting to me at that point.
Yeah, I've got enough going on in my life at the moment without. So I once I saw that coming through and I was starting to get private messages, what's your thoughts on this and stuff, I just went, nah, I'm having a weekend off LinkedIn. I'm not getting involved. I've got better stuff to do with my own mental health. You know, like I'm being acutely aware that of where I now talk and stuff is important. So like I was approached by a media person last week asking if I would comment on some how to tackle self-assessments and stuff better. And I just turned around and said, look, no, because I did the same thing for you a year ago and got a tsunami wave of crap for it. I thought, I've just got better things to focus my mental health on and to be more interesting. Like I don't need, for the sake of 150 words, I don't need that crap. So yeah, I just avoided social media this weekend because of that. I mean, I was very active in the client engager group and supporting our client engager users, but that's such a nice community that we don't bring these topics up in that.
Yeah. And to be fair, again, I actually think that from Sage users and you know, people who are on the Sage side, they have this right with this particular comment to be a little bit smug, right? Fair enough. They always put accountants first. They built that software from the ground up for accountants.
And they've never deviated from that message.
Exactly. And they're right to kind of sit there and go, you know what, QuickBooks dropped the ball here. That's an L. You know, they'll learn from it and they'll move on. But ultimately, they had that chance to sit there and go, you know what, this is why I picked Sage. This is the exact reason, right? But for the blue team to sit there criticizing, for me, they're throwing rocks in a glass house, and that glass house is at the moment at the bottom of a lake, right? Like they should not be throwing bricks. Because the way I always see this is that actions speak well louder than words, right? So yes, these words here are damning, and they've already apologized, and there's going to be more. You know, we'll see what happens going forward. And we know enough about the insides of what's happening there to think to ourselves that there'll be something will happen from this, and they'll grow from it, right?
Yeah.
But from Xero's point of view, they're throwing these stones. They're trying to sit there being righteous about, oh, you know, everything else. QuickBooks in the last year have produced so much updates for the accounting industry, it was unbelievable, right? We sat there doing a whole podcast about it, trying to rank what was best, what was worst, and going through
we've done numerous podcasts, numerous events going, they've just done this for us, they've just done that for us.
Exactly. So the actions are QuickBooks are looking after accountants. So they want to, they want to work with accountants. If you're a Xero user, unless your practice has a particular font, what updates did you have this year that helped you? Because all they've done is added a bit of fontage to, their reporting. And I just feel like that's the bit where I was going through those comments, and it was the irony from certain sides of the fence of throwing these rocks when, like, what actions has your side said that they really do support you? Like, very, very little, right? And I do feel like that's where it kind of falls down to.
I think this is the biggest letdown, the biggest shame, disappointment, angering factor type, whatever you want to call it from our point of view, is for the last 18 months, QuickBooks has recognized that they'd taken the American QuickBooks approach of focusing on small businesses in the UK, and actually that we've got a different way of working, different culture, etc. in the UK. They recognise and acknowledge that, and they've worked so bleeding hard to get accountants back on side that they've done the Accounting Council for this very reason.
Yeah, agree.
But this one ill thought out post, or which wouldn't have come from the accounting channel side of QuickBooks, it will have come from the direct business side, has overnight burnt a lot of that trust. That, though, like you and I will always go, look, it's QuickBooks, it's fine, the overall thing is good, etc. But for those that were just starting to go, oh, maybe QuickBooks are talking to us, and maybe they are starting to listen to us, maybe they are focused on us, and they're kind of building that trust bit by bit, this one article destroys all that work that's been done in the last 18 months. And it also, it's kind of damaging to our personal brands that we're stood there for 18 months going, QuickBooks is on track, they're doing this for us, they're doing that for us. And then an article like this makes us look like a bit silly, because it's like, well, you guys have been saying for the last 18 months this is getting better, and it is overall. But mistakes still happen. We're still human. Everyone's still human. Now, if this article went through the Accounting Council, it would never have happened. And I think that's or even if it went through the marketing team that look after the accounting channel at QuickBooks, knowing most of the people in that team, they're smart enough to spot this. I think, yeah, it's really, that's the biggest frustration to me, is that we've sat there going, just been to the Accounting Council, they're on track, this is our feedback, they're working on it, they're actioning everything we're saying, it's been brilliant. And then none of that really gets any traction. So, oh, QuickBooks fanboys. Then the moment something negative comes out, woof, it goes viral in the accounting world.
And that's not just the accounting world, though, is it? That's everywhere.
Well, yeah. And you just think there going, oh, for God's sake. Like, there was absolutely no point of you and me jumping on social media trying to defend this article over the weekend, because we'd have just been shouted down, factually or infactually correct. We'd have been shouted down. And I just sit there thinking, all it could have taken is can you just read this for 20 minutes, guys? That one sense check. Like, when we were sat there being shown new adverts from QuickBooks and getting our inputs on that, we know how much value we added to that, and how many things were changed because of our input. If they'd done that with this blog post, they'd have saved them a huge headache.
Yeah,
and I think that's the frustrating part for me, is this one action has had such a impact and a visible impact, and all it would have taken is, can any of the Accounting Council just cast your eye over this and let us know what you think?
Agreed. But they do say, don't they, that no PR is bad PR. So the fact that you tell me a blog post from Xero in the last 24 months that have had any impact whatsoever, and anyone's ever spoke about anything that they've mentioned. So I get it. Like, you're completely right, but at the same time, that's the point of social media, isn't it? They want to be in the limelight. Bad reasons or not so bad reasons. Actually, the fact everyone's talking about it, the fact we're talking about it on this channel now, and the fact that what's it at now? 223 likes, 242 comments, on the OG post. Actually, yeah, it's not the best look ever, but I don't think anything else would generate this. It's negativity that does, right? Same with Dex, right? Dex now, everyone knows who Dex is. Like, at one point, it was just
because they've left them.
Yeah, but as a forward-thinking firm, you knew what Dex were and everything else. Now every accountant knows what they are, because there's so much chatter about it, rightly or wrongly. There is chatter, and I do just believe that, you know what, you take it on the chin. They'll learn from it. They'll figure it out. It's just the comment, and it's some of the other posts that have been posted by people who are just jumping on the bandwagon. Like,
the original post was very well done and very PC. Exactly, like, it highlighted a genuine point. It is the commenters, etc., that have caused it to spiral.
And the irony is, some of the baddest of eggs were in that commenting group, trying to justify like qualified accountants who have completely dropped the ball, and and everything else. They were commenting in that group, and you're like, well, like, the irony of that, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, and rightly so. The people who were upset are the people who feel like they weren't represented, and I completely back them. And I think,
and whilst I am not a governing body supporter, and I think they're an utterly complete and utter waste of time and money, I can understand why people get so passionate about it, because it's their tribe. Whether you're ICB, IAB, AAT, whoever you are, you're part of that tribe.
Yeah, and it's the same as QuickBooks versus Xero, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't matter how big your tribe is or how small your tribe is. You fight fiercely for the reputation of your tribe, and this post technically cast doubt and a bad light on the other tribes and the other governing bodies. So of course they're going to come out and defend it, and rightly so. And they're passionate about it, and that's great.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, if anything, if it was just ICAW there, not ACCA, I'd completely back it. Do you know what I mean? Like, the fact that they're trying to say ACCA sometimes.
You is that you've been had a dispersion cast on you that you're the same as ACCA.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, I'm joking about that one, but that's the tribal.
Get the lawyers.
Yeah, but that's the tribal mentality, right? Like, I'm in the ICAW camp. Of course, I'm going to have some jibes and comments to the ACCA tribe, and that's what it's all about. But yeah, I think we spoke about it enough. I just feel like the last bit is fair play. Like, yeah, from a Sage point of view, you guys can sit there being smug. You've got a W. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
Just Xero. Just be careful about throwing around those rocks, eh? Let's just be a little bit careful about that.
Those rocks they're throwing around with bits of paper tied to them have got new fonts.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So we've had our. Oh no, we haven't finished it, because more importantly, what do you guys think? We've got Cheryl saying, what do you think of QB saying only accountants registered with ICAW and ACCA are proper accountants? Again, it's, if it was just ICAW, we'd be fine with it.
Ultimately, a couple. And
shall we start the conversation again?
Like, it's just those couple of words. But how important are a couple of words? Like, I just got a client off a £40,000 tax fine because of a couple of words.
Yeah, exactly.
HMRC wrote down in their notes that the client realised he should have been paying VAT, was his words apparently on the phone. Now, they didn't have an audio backup of this. So I just pointed out, what if the person that took these notes 3 years ago and has since left HMRC with no audio recording, which should have actually heard, I realise now I should have been VAT registered.
Yeah.
Because he's written it, and as in he's always known he should have been. But that one word now is in retrospect, in hindsight, I realised But because of the way they wrote it, they were trying to slap him with a £40,000 tax fine and penalties, whereas because they couldn't back it up, we got him off.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they backtracked and said, "Oh, we didn't read him his rights." It's like, well, if you've not got an audio recording, how do you know you didn't read him his rights? But it just shows how important that word or a couple of words is for context.
Yeah, exactly right. And if this would be a non-issue, right? This would never have got the traction, never have got that. We can argue again, is that good or bad? You know, PR,
Yep.
no PR's bad PR, you know, whatever the phrase is. But ultimately, if that word wasn't there, this would be a non-issue, right? Morning, gents. Hope you're having a good January. Dan, we are having a good January. Well, I'm not. Johann is.
Loving life.
I just want sleep. Paul says, I take it you check HMRC for those who have filed themselves and not bothered to inform you. So this is going back to the fact that we're talking about, we will always check to see if they have filed themselves or anything else. But I think, again,
but also with the modern software we have, because we don't have to have agent authorization to file, not everyone like if you take on someone last minute and you do it and they're an annual client, you won't always have agent authorization. But like we turn around and say, look, we can do your tax return, but that's what you're paying for is a tax return. If there's any repercussions or anything from HMRC, then you need to come to us, sign up as a full-blown client rather than just a tax return client, and we get agent authorization processes and stuff in place. But we don't do it with every client because we know they probably won't be back, and it's a waste of everyone's time.
Yeah, but I suppose the argument is without agent authentication, you can't see tax code and stuff like that. But whatever, that's back to why bookkeepers make such good, people who do the tax returns, because they would know that inside out, right? Where are we? AJ's joined us. Hello, AJ. Hopefully, you've enjoyed our conversation this morning. You're too involved. This is fun. So funny. Goes Samantha Mitchum, says Kirsty. Annoying, but what a whirlwind. Yeah, bookkeeper as well. Exactly right. Yeah, exactly. And then we go back on to say thanks, and be more bookkeeper as a hashtag. So completely agree with you, Kirsty. And yeah, we're both of us on full agreement. Paul says agreed. Experience trumps education when it comes to accounting, in my honest opinion. Even but honest there, it was not just his opinion, it was his honest opinion. But he's right. Yeah, exactly. You could, Paul's a perfect example. He knows the cab industry inside and out, the taxi industry inside and out, right? Like, it doesn't matter how qualified the other accountant's going to be, the fact that he knows inside and out that you got to look for this, look for that, etc., etc. Then, I have a niche in my Apple core of Scottish dog groomers. So, any Scottish dog groomer out there, don't worry, I've got the experience to deal with it. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it counts for, right? You got one client who's gone through XYZ, you use that knowledge, you put it into the other, trumps any qualification out there. For me, the most important skill for accountants is ongoing CPD and keeping up with the industry. That is very, very good training. Even if you're qualified, doesn't mean that you're necessarily doing CPD in the right areas, right? So it's always going to be a difficult one. Sue's joined us. Good morning, Sue. And then Paul also says, but isn't the problem with social media? A few misplaced, misspoken words can destroy so much. Exactly. People have been cancelled for far less than missing out the word like in a blog post, haven't they?
Yep.
Awesome. Right. What is our next topic? Our next topic is Company House, and updates are incoming. And I think more than anything, we just wanted to talk about what realistically that's going to mean for us as accountants and how that's going to affect our clients going forward. So let's just do a quick little update of what's going to happen. First of all, software only filing is coming soon. It looks like that's going to go through, and that's going to be definite coming forward. And also there is the whole, we're not 100% sure how this is going to work yet, but there's going to be more AML checks regarding setting itself up as a company going forward, and not just relying on us doing those AML checks, but actually having some system that will, you'll have to be AML to set it up and all that sort of excuse me. So not really changing too much in terms of what we're already doing now, but making it far more official, isn't it? Yeah. And actually, you can't set up a business or a company on Company's House without going through an AML check going forward. So let's concentrate first of all on the software only filing coming soon. For us, no change, I'd imagine, for the way that we're doing things, right? but that must be a big change to a lot of private. There's a lot of firms out there still using Microsoft Word. A lot of companies out there still using Microsoft Word to create a set of accounts. That pretty much means the end of that going forward. And I don't know if we've been told yes or no yet, but does that also mean that Companies House are going to completely destroy their online filing area? I believe so. I believe that's what this is meaning. And I think both of those could be quite a big impact on people doing company.
I think we're going to see a lot more. We're going to see a lot more work potentially from this, because from new clients, because clients are out there quite happily filing their accounts online at the moment using Companies House. Now, what we are going to see, and let's pre-warn the industry now before they all get a bit shirty. The reason QuickBooks has got a QuickBooks Self-Employed package and Xero has got the the Xero Go package is because ultimately taxpayers in the UK can file their own tax returns. Full stop. And until that law changes, we need to make sure there's software delivering to those people that are doing it themselves. And the same is going to happen with Company House accounts. At the moment, QuickBooks, Xero, TaxCalc, etc., have accounting-facing products. When this law comes in, the software market will have to respond to ensure that the tools that are needed to allow a business owner to file their own accounts, because by law they can, they will have to respond, and they are going to have to provide something. That doesn't mean the software providers are trying to cut us out. It just means they're facilitating those businesses who have the option and opt to do these things themselves.
Yep.
So they can facilitate the compliance of the law. And until the laws change, say you can't do your own self-assessment. I mean, the clue's in the name. Like, a corporation tax is technically a self-assessment of corporation tax. Mm-hmm. So until those laws change, these software providers are going to have to provide a solution to allow these businesses to meet the requirements of the law. And the law now states they will have to file via software. But there's going to be plenty of people out there that will go, oh, the software companies are trying to cut me out of my business. It's like, they're not. They're just facilitating the new change in the law that they've not had to facilitate before, because there's been other options.
And it's right. I mean, we don't know if QuickBooks are going to open it up to clients to do it. They've never mentioned it. They've never said anything. But it makes a lot more sense if QuickBooks, Xero, Sage did give client-facing opportunities to file the returns. Because can you imagine you having to support, or people having to support, the general public having an access to an Iris license, for example, to file their accounts, or, CCH, or whatever tax solution that you're using at this point in time? Some of them are really intuitive, and some of them I can imagine could make it quite friendly for a non-accountant to maybe file the dormant set of accounts each month or each year, or whatever it's going to be. But they're very few and far between. Whereas, if it's built in, Free Agent, perfect example, right? One of the reasons Free Agent is so popular and so useful is because they've just made it super user-friendly to be able to go in there, put in your bank account details, do your bookkeeping, file your VAT returns, file your self-assessment, file your company account if you need to. It's all in one package, all sat there, and it makes sense, right? Imagine that whole idea that you've got to grab the data from QuickBooks, Sage, or Xero, and then having to put it into that. That sounds ludicrous to the general public. We do it day in, day out as accountants, right? That's part and parcel. That's what we're paid to do. That's one of our skill sets. So I do feel like the only way for this to work is for the likes of those FMS solutions, as we call them now, to offer this service. And I don't see another alternative. I don't see another world where that doesn't happen, or it's better. Like, do we really want an influx of all this work that this could generate for us, when realistically they didn't want an account in the first place because they were quite happy to do it themselves? They're not going to be wanting all of our added value things, otherwise they'd have already come to us, right? They're only going to want a solution where they can file their return as cost effectively as possible in the thing, and they're going to be a race to the bottom for that sort of work. do we as accountants really want to get involved in that? With all the AML checks we've got to do, with all of that sort of stuff. Is that the world we want to be in? For some accountants, yeah, that's what they want. But I don't think for majority of, especially people listening to this podcast, that's the sort of work we really want, right?
And ultimately, we haven't got the talent resources in the UK to facilitate it.
Yeah.
Like, if the law changed tomorrow and everyone had to use a bookkeeper or accountant to file stuff, the industry would collapse. Like, these laws are already in place in America. And there's filings that are going late in America because there's not enough accountants and bookkeepers in America to facilitate the number of business returns that need to be done. Like, anyone that says, "Oh, everything should be mandated," it's like, yeah, it'd be nice for business, but if you think January's hard work, try doing that 12 months a year.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's not feasible from a mental health point of view. It's not feasible from a talent point of view. Like, yeah, the fact that they're modernizing it, and basically what they're doing here is it's MTD for accounts production.
Yeah, they're passing the book on, aren't they? It must have cost X amount to keep that company's house submission solution working, right? Or it cost them X amount to grab a piece of paper through the post and process it and put it through. And they're just going, right, you know what, pass that book to someone else to do it. It's economics, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, no, I'm all in favour for this change and the modernisation of accounts filing, especially if it means I don't have to just the amount of time we've saved already from not having to refile accounts through the post.
Yeah,
and then for some, putting it politely, job's worth, to sit there and oh, that signature's on the wrong page because you made the statement on the other page. It's like, yes, but the statement's that big, it fits on 2 pages. Well, that's not going to work. And on Companies House Register, there's a dot here. You've put a hyphen. So for God's sake, there's bigger problems in the world to deal with than whether we've put a hyphen or whatever. Now, we've not had any of that since we've been able to file electronically. It's been beautiful. So, yeah, I'm all up for this change.
Yeah. And do you think that the likes, because forget me wrong, I don't think Xero allow it, do they? Xero only let you, if you're an accountant, file your might need them. Yeah,
they may have to look at their options.
Yeah,
they might need to do a watered down version, as might QuickBooks, as might Sage. Ultimately, businesses have the right to file their own accounts. If they want to do that, the software industry is going to be expected by the government to facilitate that law change.
Yeah, and they'll have to charge for it. Fair enough. They'll figure out a price, whatever that's going to be. But I think that's justifiable, right? Like that's not a simple just turn on a button and let it go. Like you said, they're going to have to make it far more user friendly for your average business owner to be able to go out there and file their own account. So yeah, and we can argue all the way through. I mean, the argument of qualified versus non-qualified accountants. Well, how about a non-accountant doing it? You know what I mean? That's a whole different conception, and they'll make mistakes and there'll be problems and there'll be issues, and fair enough. But they've chosen to do that, and that's their right. It's then got to be down to Companies House and HMRC to put controls in place to try and make sure that they're at least to a standard that's worthwhile, right? Like that's going to be going forward. So yeah, I think that's fine. I think the biggest pain point's going to be is if it is going to 100% go through as the abbreviated accounts being taken away from us. I don't see how that's. I don't. Sometimes when there's logic to changes, like this change here about not having, I back that. I understand it. Like there must be so much wasted resource in keeping that Companies House solution up and running, and manually having to scan a piece of paper in and put it through. Right? I get it. I get why they've moved that, but I don't understand this whole concept of let's open up Pandora's box of all of these different accounts going forward. It just something about that doesn't fit right.
Yeah, and in my mind, I get what the government are trying to do. They're trying to cut out fraud, and they think by displaying a P&L on a set of accounts to Companies House will cut out fraud. It's like, well, HMRC have already got the P&L.
Yeah.
if you insist on Company's House having that detailed level of information, fine. Let us submit a full set of accounts that will always be kept private to Company's House, and an abbreviated set of accounts which will go public as they do now. That way, you can have the detail without causing issues for those that are in a competitive space, shall we say.
Yeah. I
There
can't
you go, I've
see
solved the problem, people. Just solved the problem, it's fine.
But I just can't see the world where this makes logical sense in every I just feel like this is going to cause far more. It'll just put people off having businesses, right? Like limited company, they'll go back to being sole trader. Or, yeah. I mean,
I've got clients already considering it. Like they're like, well, we're only 5.5%, 6.5% better off tax wise by being a limited company at the moment. Is it worth it?
Yeah.
No. Right, I'm going to go back to being sole trader. I'll shut my business down. I want to keep my details private. So, okay.
Yeah, it's scary, isn't it? Because most of the time we talk about the benefits of being limited isn't just the tax, it's it's the protection and everything else. But if they're gonna have such a detrimental part to their business by suddenly putting out there that the confidential information out to the world, then being protected doesn't seem all that worthwhile, right? Like,
you imagine the marketing hassle you're going to get, right? Suddenly all these marketing companies are going to be, oh, we see you're spending X amount on advertising each year. We can save you 25% and get you the same results.
Yeah. I mean, they haven't yet said it's a detailed P&L, have they? They've said it's just a P&L, right?
That's it.
But you're right. If it is a full detailed P&L.
Yeah, and then you're always going to get those less ethical accountants go, oh, we see you spent X amount on your accounting fees. We can save you 50% this year. Or we can see you spent X amount on your corporation tax. We could have saved you this.
Yeah.
Whether that's true or not, whether they put any actual research into it, it's a whole different matter.
Yeah, exactly. I don't get it. I don't understand it, but we'll keep an eye on it.
I go and write my new marketing plan.
Yeah, exactly. What about the fact that we've got more stringent AML changes coming? I mean, it's a good thing, right? We actually, that's one of the ones where you can see that that's a positive change, and that means there'll be less.
What I've not understood.
How's that going to work?
Well, what I've not quite checked here or found an answer to, should I say, I've done a bit of reading, but they're asking us to validate the ID of Joe Bloggs, who wants us to set up a new limited company. Do I have to validate his ID today to set up one limited company and then validate it again tomorrow if he says, oh, I need another limited company? Or can I use the ID that we validated as part of his onboarding to submit to Company's House? Like, some of the wording is every time you set up a limited company, you need to go through the ID process, which I don't disagree with in theory. Like, everyone should we need to check that it's a genuine person that is setting up the business and that it's being done for genuine reasons. But if a client's been with you for 5 years, you've got their ID and stuff on record from your AML checks, it's in date. Can I take that piece of ID that was submitted 2 years ago? It's in date, it's all still relevant, and then use that each time? Or do I have to say, oh, you want a new limited company, right? Send me your passport, or use Zama in my case to submit the passport. And then how do I get that information from Zama into Company's House? There's still a bit of uncertainty about this for me. The concept as an overall of, if Joe Bloggs wants a limited company, well, you need to check Joe Bloggs is Joe Bloggs. Fine. Because we already do that if they want to work with us in any state.
I mean, I suppose the only thing that this should prevent is, again, bad eggs who haven't been doing what they should have already been doing, right? Like, that's where this makes sense, because they are definitely accountants out there who will just register you as a limited company, blah, 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 do no checks whatsoever. Yeah. And they're off to the bad eggs out there who've done this, and this is where problems have arisen. At least this way means that as accountants, we're all going to have to follow the same guidelines, and there's no deviating from those rules, and that's a good thing, right?
Yep.
But surely the only way this will work is in some magical way, just like the DSO1 solution is now, is that as an accountant, you will put the information in, or as an agent, you'll put the information in, but then they, to finish that application, then some form of link gets sent to the client or an email to the client, and they have to do their own independent ID AML checks at that point. I can't see without that it working, and we've not heard any conversation from Companies House that they've got any third party involved in this, or there's some solution out there to make it really simple for them to do. And I just feel like this could be a really difficult transition for us, because we're going to be in a position where actually clients going to want to have a company, and we're going to be unknown ourselves how that process is going to work.
Or is it going to be as simple as, so if we set up the company on their behalf, so we use Inform Direct and it takes us 10 minutes, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Is it just going to be a case of Companies House tells company secretarial softwares, you just need a tick box that the accountant accepts responsibility for doing the ID checks, then you don't have to submit anything to us because the accountant or bookkeeper has done the checks?
I don't know if that's enough, because again,
is that enough? Is it not? I don't.
Well, that's
I don't
technically
know.
what it is now, right? We as the agents, we're taking responsibility that the people are ID checked and blah 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 blah. Like, if that was enough now, we wouldn't have this. But I suppose taking this on the one step further is the fact that there are people out there just creating businesses through Companies House by themselves, right? And I think that's
the bit they're trying to stamp out. Is that Joe Bloggs is actually setting up his 6th business for a genuine reason, and it is Joe Bloggs. And every time Joe Bloggs wants to add Jane Bloggs onto another company as a shareholder, Jane Bloggs' ID is uploaded to confirm that.
Yeah.
So, but how are we going to get access to that information? Like, we have that information to hand because we use Armour. So is it going to be I have done the checks for ID and stuff and they've passed, and then do I then need to upload those documents, those PDFs, which will get submitted with the documentation for Companies House? I mean, and I'm going to go on the assumption this is going to require some manual intervention to review those documents. So the rapid setup of companies in under 24 hours sometimes is not going to be as rapid anymore.
There's going to be barriers to entry, isn't there now?
Yeah.
Which isn't the worst thing in the world, I don't think. I think there's a...
No, but yeah, we need more clarity about how this is actually going to be executed and delivered. And have we got a date of when this comes in yet? I've seen a few...
Yeah, there's dates floating around. All we know is it looks like it's been rubber stamped, don't we? I mean, that was the latest on it. So.
Yeah. But not for when it would be brought in, because, yeah, as you say, I think Companies House are going to have to go away and really think about how they want to.
They need to partner
with this.
No way can this happen without some sort of partner of some respect. And I assume, isn't HMRC jumped on Verify as their partner for ID checks and stuff at the moment? So
I think so. You'd assume it'll be another contract for them, yeah.
Yeah. Which is that the right way? I don't know. I think they do a good job, but
are we? The other hassle here is so if we turn around and say, right, well, Verify's doing that, and actually, yes, every time you try and set up a new company, you've got to send a link to the client, and they've got to upload their ID and stuff. That's for the right reasons. We want to genuinely check that person has their ID and stuff like that. That's great. But then how many, do we then end up having to submit ID every time we do a confirmation statement? Like, where does it stop? But also, like, how much more administration burden can we put on to accountants, bookkeepers, or business owners before they go, it's not worth it, I'll stick as a sole trader?
Exactly.
And then you have no visibility of anything.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, change, hey?
I'm not, as you say, we're not against this, are we? I think we just want to see, before this goes any further to the public and stuff, like, I've already had a client asking me, oh, do you need my ID each time to set up a limited company at the moment? Or if I want to add my wife, do I need to send you her passport and stuff? It's like, well, yes, actually you do for our own AML purposes. But no, you've read about Companies House, and that's not right. That's not there yet. Yeah.
Completely.
It's an admin burden that's designed to try and tackle fraud from these big companies and Russian and whatever other
which is just going to affect
countries are causing us. But actually, the administration burden is sat on Joe Blogs and the accountants and bookkeepers that support Joe Blogs.
Yeah, 100%. Paul says, sounds like company house with company HMRC with the government gateway login. Are they kind of already there, aren't they? It's all kind of linked at the moment, you know. Probably there'd be more in-depth government gateway. You'll do more in there maybe, but they are kind of linked at the moment. Paul says, no more Fred down the pub completing tax returns for a beer and a £50. Didn't you say you built your whole career around being Fred down the pub?
Out was down the pub.
No more Johann down the pub for a beer and 50 quid. It's
I
also
can't believe they were getting 50 quid. I just got the beer.
That's where you go wrong. That's where you go wrong.
Yeah, I've gone wrong.
It also affects online services like First Formation. It does, but their whole business structure is built around it. They must be in consultation with Companies House at this point. Surely.
Oh, easily.
They must already have had pilots and stuff going through, and you'd hope so anyway. I am. Yeah, I'm. Maybe they don't, but yeah, I'd hope that's the case. Cheryl says, will Companies House check ID of individuals setting up their own company? Well, that's the intention, right? It's like, let's make sure that it's not just assumed that ID is correct. It's let's actually, somewhere or another, some check's going to be done there and then it'll go through.
So that's another barrier to entry now, that ID checks aren't free.
No.
So let's go on the assumption Verify charging, or Companies House needs to charge £5 for the ID verification per person. So if you're setting up a one director shareholder business at the moment, it's £13.
Yeah.
Now it's £18 because we've got to pay for the ID check as well.
Yeah. But surely, and again, I'm putting a lot of faith in Companies House, which I've learned from time again that I shouldn't do. But surely this has to be that cost just gets passed on to the individual. It's got to be a case you send a link. As in, we as the accountants don't get involved in that. We'll do exactly what we're doing already, but we send a link to a client. They pay that fee there and then.
Yeah. So I think there's two directions here. They can either give us that ability that we put all the details in, they go and finalize the checks via a link that you send out, and technology will support that these days. That's not an issue.
Yeah.
Or they need to give us the route that we've done those ID checks ourselves. They've been incurred. We need to be able to upload that document that says, this is all the ID check, etc. That report you get from Verify or Zama or whatever, that goes on record against the company.
Yeah.
But otherwise, you are going to tell a client every single time they request a new company or a new shareholder, they're going to have to redo all the ID checks. And the costs. Whereas we can mitigate some of those costs by, we've already done the checks as part of our onboarding process, and they've met certificate, AML procedure requirements. So for that reason, they'll meet Companies House in theory. I don't know, but
too many unknowns, isn't there? As always. And Cheryl says, finally, I've had a prospect client fail electronic ID checks with driving license and council tax bill. Yeah, I'd argue that's the whole point. Right, that's the whole point of doing the checks. Their address is not up to date, or there'll be something right. So go through from there. Right, that is it. That is the end of today's Ask the Accountant. We have one more left before the 31st of January rolls around. So if you've got any questions, anything else, or things, then let us know beforehand, and we can kind of cover the topics going forward. But thank you everyone for joining in today. Don't forget that we go live each and every Monday morning at 8:30 a.m. if you are listening to us back on any of the podcast service channels of choice, and we make sure that goes up by a Wednesday going forward. Johann, thank you so much for coming along today's thing. Anything people should be looking out for? Any kind of social posts or social elements that people should be considering?
I've got a few videos I'm putting together at the moment of tools I use. So I'm looking at my everyday carry. I'm looking at my travel carry. So the tech and stuff I use on a day-to-day basis, my office setup, my traveling bags, etc. My work remotely bags. But I've got a new gadget coming that I'm very excited for. So AI note taking is going to go to a whole new level.
Oh, you went through, did you?
Aaron's not convinced by this, but I think this is a one tool solves all, especially with the call and meeting tracking facility and client engager. That's the big one for me. But also, I think it's going to help with like reflection and blogging.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll see.
Okay, interesting. Very
Watch
exciting.
this space for a video.
Yeah, very, very exciting. Very exciting. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you for putting your comments in as always. You've been absolutely brilliant. And we will see you bright and early next Monday morning at 8:30 a.m. for another exciting episode of Ask the Accountant. So it's a goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me.
Cheers, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.